They say the devil's in the details. Do the little things make the biggest difference when it comes to immersion in games? Plus, every gamer parent's nightmare comes true for one of our hosts. You'll hear the story next. The GameCritics.com podcast starts right now. Of Arsenio Hall, it's time. GameCritics.com podcast, episode 41. 41. Man, we are middle-aged. I'm Tim Spaeth. Joining me this week, three men. Chi Kong Liu, he's the founder and owner of GameCritics.com. Good evening, sir.
How's it going, Tim? I think Bruce Buffer now owns that line, by the way.
Joining me this week are three men. That line? Which line are you referring to?
That's kind of gross, man. That's inappropriate for the show.
Way inappropriate.
Well, the Arsenio Hall line. He said, it's time.
Oh, really? Somebody else picked that up?
Yeah, Michael Buffer's brother, Bruce Buffer.
Oh. Well,
the Frank Stallone of announcing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. It's like the perfect comparison.
That's perfect. I will find a different Arsenio Hall quote and edit that in later. Who else is here? Brad Gallaway's here, senior editor. How are you, Brad?
Doing well. Good to be back with you guys.
It's been a long time. When we split the one episode into two episodes, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks since we've actually recorded a show.
Feels like a lifetime.
It does. It really does. Well, the third of the three men, Mike Bracken, the horror geek. How are you, Mike?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Tim?
I'm well. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Does anyone call you Michael?
Actually, that's very funny. My family all calls me that. And I'm like,
wow.
No, I'm Mike. Don't call me Michael. But my family has always called me that, so yes. Does anybody call you Timothy?
No one calls me Timothy.
All right. Good to know.
Bradley?
No.
I don't know a longer form of Chi, so.
Good one.
It's my xenophobic Americanism running rampant yet again.
There you go.
Nice. Lack of Chinese naming tradition clearly on display here on the Game Critics podcast.
I love it. Well, guys, the topic this week, the devil's in the details. How attention to detail can lend to the immersiveness of a game. And immersiveness is not actually a word, but we will be using it throughout the show tonight. And I'm looking over my notes. We've got some interesting games we're going to throw into that discussion. It looks like the latest Mass Effect 2 DLC, Lair of the Shadow Broker. Got a little Red Dead Redemption coming up. Can you believe we have not talked about Red Dead Redemption yet? I can't believe we've made it this long without it, but we're going to talk about it. Infinite Space, which is kind of a redundant title.
Yeah.
plus many, many more. In a moment, we'll do our quote of the week as well. But first, I want to take a moment, if I can go off prompter here for a second, and address a story that came out in the tabloid press this week. This will be my one and only statement on the matter. I am not leaving the podcast to pursue my music career.
Good deal.
Have I been singing on this podcast? Yes.
I thought you were going all Joaquin Phoenix on us, so I was a little worried.
No, Mike, this is serious. This is very serious. Have music producers heard the songs and reached out to me? Yes. Am I releasing an album in 2011? Contractually, I can't say one way or another. But whatever I do with my God-given gift of song, it will not affect my commitment to hosting and producing this podcast. And to my co-hosts, and I'm tearing up here a bit, I am so sorry that you have been dragged through the mud along with me. But hopefully this statement will end this tabloid nonsense once and for all.
It's been a rough road, Tim, but I'm glad you got that off your chest. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will not be speaking of this again. So, with that, let's get rolling. It's time now for our quote of the week. Okay, well, here comes my assistant, Felipe, with our sealed envelope inside it, as we do every week, a quote from a member of the gaming industry or media. None of us have read the contents of this envelope until now. Thank you, sir. Is it cheating when we quote ourselves? Because I think we've done this. I think
We've already done it once. It won't hurt to do it
Yeah.
again.
We've done
Once, I think it's like we did it every single time, pretty much.
We're like the easy girl in high school. One more won't hurt.
Yeah. Here is something one of us recently tweeted. Quote, "My son just erased my Dragon Quest IX save file. 300 hours of questing and loot just vanished into the air." End quote. Well, heck, that is basically every gamer parent's nightmare, and the gamer parent responsible for that quote is none other than Chi Kong Lu. Chi, I don't know if you can bear to relive this, but please tell us how did this happen?
Well, my son's really been actually enjoying Dragon Quest IX, or at least watching me play Dragon Quest IX. It's really nice and colorful, and he's actually been it's actually been a great bonding experience for us because he's been learning a lot about Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy stuff through the game. So that's been great. In order to try to get him away from my game, I let him play the Dragon Quest Rocket Slime game as well as Dragon Quest V on the DS as well. And when he plays those games, he really doesn't. He doesn't have any concept of save. He'll just like start the game over and over again, and that's just a perfectly valid game for him. So, I never thought, and of course, there was always a fear in the back of my mind that he would erase the game, but I in Dragon Quest IX, but I'd always be very careful to sort of monitor his playtime and keep an eye on him, and because it's already he already leveled up one of my guys while I wasn't there, and he sort of allocated the points improperly, and that kind of pissed me off. But since that happened, I kind of made sure he knew not to do that again, and he would always be very diligent about it. So it was really good, and didn't really think it was a problem. And so what happened was that in the morning of 9/11, I just started.
It all ties back to 9/11.
Right.
The terrorists have won again.
If you call this your personal 9/11, I think we're going to get
a lot of hate mail.
We're gonna get hate mail.
No.
Stay away.
Not going there. It was it was the morning of 9/11. I had just done some grinding quests on one of the maps, just for the hell of it. I'd already beaten the game, so I'm just sort of in the post game, grinding for treasures and things like that. I stopped playing. I had to do some work, because as you guys know, I work at the Red Cross and doing some social media, regarding to some of the memorial service the Red Cross was doing at the 9/11 at the Ground Zero. So while I was doing this, my son Ryan, he found the DS that I had just sort of left around because I had just been grinding. I didn't turn it off or save the game. He flipped it open. He said, "Dad, can I kill the slime?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out." So I'm busy doing work, and he goes off into the room, and I figure he's just gonna sort of beat up a couple of slimes and be done with it. So when I'm done with my work, I go into the room. The DS is on the bed. He's sort of off playing with his trains already. And so I said, "Oh, you're done? Okay." So I take it, I open it up. And then I noticed that it was on the screen where you're like customizing the character, which is like at the beginning. When I saw that, my heart just sort of dropped. I was just like, "Uh-oh." Don't tell me what happened just happened. And of course it did. And by that time, there's nothing you can do at that point. It's strange how
there is.
Yeah. I don't understand why some games, how when you start a new game, until you save the actual game, it doesn't overwrite the previous one. But in this game, they didn't do that. In order to start a new game, you have to just say, "Do you want to erase the game or not?" And then, of course, you say yes. It's gone forever. And like I told you before, my son was used to doing this with Dragon Quest Rocket Slime and for Dragon Quest V, so he didn't think anything of it. And there it was. I was just sort of like standing there like, "Oh my God, oh my fucking God," like.
So Chi, did you like turn it off and on and like flip the lid up and down to maybe see if you could get it back? Like,
yeah.
To see if you were actually really seeing what you were seeing?
Yeah, I turned it off. I didn't do anything with it, and went through the instruction manual to see if there's some kind of a secret button sequence to bring it back. And nope, on the instruction manual clearly says nope. Once you erase it, it's gone. So like,
So so people know, your son is how old?
oh, he's 5 years old.
He's 5 years old. So clearly not a malicious act on his behalf. But your initial reaction, like, was there even a notion that you might just raise your voice, yell?
Yeah. I definitely. My voice definitely went up a little bit, and I said, did you know what you just did, Ryan? That kind of a thing. And he actually, and I named all the characters after like myself, my wife, and my best friend. So he actually like, and he was actually he actually refers to like me, my character as Chi, and stuff like that. So I said, I said you just erased Chi and Regina and Tom and Dale. Did you realize that? And he kind of got it. He wasn't, he didn't. He could. I think he kind of got it. He was a little bit, upset about it. So, I didn't put him in timeout. I didn't think I needed to go there, and that was fine. And then I proceeded to vent on Twitter.
You use Twitter as an outlet for your rage, and that's very mature. That's very mature. I have to ask, Mike Bracken.
I knew this was coming to me.
Put yourself in Chi's shoes. How do you react in the same situation?
I am generally not an advocate of child abuse, but in this instance, I would be all in favor of severe child abuse. 300 hours. No, kidding aside, this is why the children are not allowed to play with daddy's toys. Buy him his own DS. I think the $160 would be well worth the not losing 300 hours of gameplay. So yeah, I don't let the kids touch my stuff. Just doesn't happen. Those are daddy's toys.
And Brad, put yourself in the same situation. How do you react?
Not to be like an asshole or anything, but it never would have happened in my house because of how I run my ship over here.
Because we're better parents.
Yeah. I mean, I have two boys, and so my youngest one is 1, so obviously he's not really playing very much right now, but my oldest is 9, and when he's here, I mean, he's got his own DS, and he has like his own library of child-appropriate games, and if there's anything that we never share games at the same time, so it's like, well, I guess that's not true. We do sometimes, like if it's on a console, but he's old enough and he's really aware of like, I always make a big deal out about, go to save slot 2. Don't touch save slot 4 because that's dad's. And I always mind.
There was the problem with Dragon Quest. It's one of those games that only has one fucking save slot.
Does it really?
Yeah.
It doesn't have even 2? Really?
Yeah, it doesn't have 2 because it's one of those like Pokemon type games where it has like all this ongoing content. You sort of like need to be like one guy in there. Although I think that's bullshit. I think they could have just
they should give you 2. I mean, that's lame.
Yeah. So I was, and I tried to wean him off the game into other games, but fuck, man, Dragon Quest IX has such great graphics. It's like a cartoon. He just could not resist it. He loved it so much. What are you gonna do? I couldn't turn him away. I tried to put him on Dragon Quest V.
So I got 2 questions for you though, dude. 2 questions to follow up on this. So A, is Ryan going to be getting his own DS for Christmas this year?
He would if he was my kid, if he was still alive.
I mean, we already have like 3 DSs in the house. He doesn't need to have his own DS. The question is, should I have bought him his own copy? Yeah, yes. That's the question. And in hindsight, yeah, maybe, but he was enjoying I actually enjoyed sharing the game with him. It was actually kind of a bonding experience for us, So a lot of good games. I have a lot of mixed feelings, man. A lot of mixed emotions.
Well, so the follow up is like, so you put in 300 hours and it was gone. I mean, and we've all lost data here and there and stuff, so we can certainly identify with that. But like after it was all done, did you feel like, did you kind of feel like better in a way almost? Because 300 hours is a pretty like ridiculous commitment. I mean, I'm sure the Mike can identify, but I don't think I've ever put 300 hours into any game like in my life. And considering that we're critics, we have to review things and we have all these commitments and stuff. I mean, did you kind of feel like it freed you up a little bit, like after like the rage it kind of died down and stuff? I mean, did you feel like oh my
totally
God, I can't believe I put 300 hours into this, or how did you feel?
He just totally made a new character named Chi and started from
started over at level
Yep.
I haven't started again, but I actually have been strategizing. I've been strategizing in my head that if I start all over again, what's like the quickest way? Like if I was sort of to do like a level run, like a what do you call those time events? A speed run. Yeah, if I was as if I was trying to do a speed run, and I think I probably could get relatively close. Like I wouldn't get as many treasures and things like that, but I could probably get to like the end game pretty quickly and start getting treasures again. So I have thought about it, haven't actually done it, but actually, Brad, you're correct. It did allow me to start trying to think about playing some other games, and I desperately needed to stop playing it. As you know, I was pretty addicted to it. And
300 hours. I need to go buy this game. I don't need to game flat. I need to own it.
I mean, keep in mind it's a portable game, so a lot of more than like 50% of it I was doing like on my morning commutes to work and things like that. It wasn't like I was just like sitting on weekends playing. Although I would spend a good chunk of it in weekends. If I went to the mall, I was playing it. If I was waiting in the car, I was playing it. That sort of thing.
That's why God made the bathroom.
There's a picture in the parking lot in a car with his head down, playing DS. Well,
yeah, no, it's not a prostitute. It's just me playing Dragon Quest. No.
Yeah.
How pathetic is that? Yeah.
If you have a van,
it's just the DS.
If you have a van with no windows, they'd call the cops on you.
Right. So and it did give me some time to play Infinite Space, and that's actually eased the blow tremendously because I'm enjoying Infinite Space tremendously. Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure I would have lost it briefly. I don't raise my voice often, but I'm pretty sure I would have lost it probably for 10 seconds, and then I would have done what I do every time I get angry or frustrated, is I would get in my car and just drive until the anger and resentment wore off. But I'm like Mike. I have some unbelievably draconian rules about what my kids are allowed to touch, and the rule is nothing of daddies.
Yes.
Nothing. No game systems. No games. No DVDs. Not my laptop. Any of Daddy's technology is just completely off limits. And my kids don't play games, so I wouldn't have been in this situation anyway. But my rules actually extend to my wife as well.
Yes.
She just a brief story. She lent I think 6 of my DVDs to a friend who was on like extended medical leave, somebody I've never met, and I came home and I noticed it immediately. There were 6 holes in my DVD shelf, and I went on just like this mad hunt for the DVDs. And my wife, she said, "Oh yeah, I lent them to my friend. She's recovering from cancer." And I said, "Get the DVDs back." And she's like, "No, she's recovering from cancer." And I actually said this. I said, "Well, chances are she's going to have an off day from chemo. Maybe she could go to Blockbuster that day." Which is, in retrospect, not really a very mature adult thing to say. But
I think you're like my brother.
Yeah.
I think we're brothers.
I did get the DVDs back, though. So
I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I made she took a game from here and a strategy guide, and I'm like, these will come back in exactly the condition they left, or there will be severe repercussions for it. So, and that was like a huge step for me, letting her take it, because nobody is allowed to borrow my books, DVDs, or games. So.
It's kind of strange because I'm probably like the most obsessive compulsive gamer of the group, and yet outside of it, you guys are like way more anal retentive than I am.
Well, it's because
when it comes to your stuff.
It's because I'm a collector, so like all my shit is in like really good shape, and like I go out and I will buy a copy of something like used, and then I will go out and hunt for another better copy of it instead, so I can get rid of the one that has some slight imperfection in it. It's like my OCD thing or something. So I am very compulsive about it.
Well, Chi, you seem to be recovered. You seem to be okay. You made it on the podcast just fine tonight. So I'm glad your life has moved on.
I got to hear some tragic stories here, man. You guys got to make me feel better about myself.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a good question. I mean, would you consider that, Chi, your greatest gaming tragedy?
Yes, by far and away, yes.
So let me turn to Brad. Brad, what would you consider your greatest gaming tragedy, whether it's data loss related or not?
Well, I don't really have a lot of like really terrible stories. I mean, one time when I was like, oh God, I must have still been in junior high school. We were playing Zelda at a friend's house, and he was like being a dick that day and just deleted the save, and we got into a fist fight over it. So that was, a little happenstance, but it was nothing major. I mean, I think if I was to
Wait, Brad, what about that time when your storage locker got broken into?
I was actually I was just going to say that. Yeah, that was going to say not really a gameplay thing, and longtime readers of the site will probably already have heard this story at least a couple times because it's still kind of a sore spot with me. But I'm a pretty big collector, like Mike is. I mean, him talking about like getting one copy and then looking for a better copy, like I was like nodding my head silently when he was telling that story. So it's something I identify with for sure. And one time when I was living in this apartment, they had this little, off-building storage unit. It was kind of like a little series of sheds in back of the complex. And at the time, we were really pressed for space. So I thought, well, I'll just stick my game stuff in there. It's stuff that I'm not playing, my Saturn stuff and some older N64 stuff that, was cool to have, but I wasn't using it at the time. So I stuck it in there, and bad mistake, because I didn't really realize how often these storage units get broken into. And sure enough, I don't know what made them pick mine. Maybe somebody had seen me going in there, or maybe somebody just knew who I was or something. But anyway, somebody busted into it and stole like a ton of my game collection, which was really, really pretty devastating to me. A lot of really hard to replace stuff, a lot of really rare stuff got taken.
What was the most valuable thing that you lost there?
I think out of everything that got taken, I think the thing that I was really the most upset about was like I had a totally mint copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga. That I was really Saga that I was really, really upset about losing. And I think there was also a Shining Force. Was it 3 is the one that came out on Saturn?
Yeah,
also?
3. Yeah.
So both of those got taken. But I mean I was really upset. I was really lost. I was kind of mad. I mean, I called the cops and they couldn't do anything and nobody knew anything. And it was basically just like a big screw you to me. But on the upside though, at the time that it happened, I posted about it at Game Critics. And really, I think we have such an awesome readership because so many people read that story and then like just started sending me stuff. Like they were just like, sending me replacement copies of stuff that I lost, or sending me stuff that I never had in the first place, but that they thought I would like. And more than anything else, somebody actually sent me a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga to replace the one that I lost. And I just was like, nice. I was so like blown away that somebody out there would be so generous and so nice and so giving to actually give up a copy of that game because mine got stolen. Like I could not believe how generous that person was. So I was really thankful for everybody that had given me stuff during that time. And it really made up for all those bad feelings that I had, and it really made me feel so much better. And honestly, I think now that so much time has passed, I've replaced just about everything that I lost, and I'm like way more careful with my stuff. And it's you move on and you remember
even more careful than before.
Yeah, totally. I'm like everything's under lock and key. I've got like a flock of pit bulls outside of my storage unit. Like nobody knows where my stuff is. I've got like those little Metal Gear Solid invisible like laser beams that you have to smoke a cigarette to get through and stuff. So way more secure. But that would probably be my worst gaming related thing ever.
You turned tragedy into triumph. Is what it sounds.
The readers did. I'm so thankful for our awesome readers. We have like the best readers on the internet.
Hear, hear. Absolutely. Mike, what about you? Any comparable tragedies?
Yeah, I've had a few. I think any of us who played a lot during the PlayStation era can recount at least one horror story about a Japanese RPG and a third-party Mega memory card corrupting. I had a few of those, like a Final Fantasy VII save where I was working on leveling to like 99, so you could like go fight the ultimate weapons and all that and everything, and like go to plug it in one day and it's all corrupted and everything was gone. There were like a bunch of RPG saves on it, but the one that still bugs me the most was like Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo. I know everybody loves the Genesis version and everybody hates the Super Nintendo version for some reason, but I've never played the Genesis version and I love the Super Nintendo one. And like I got all the way to the last tower, and this was back in the day where there was no game facts or anything like that. So like RPGs were like you really had to figure all the shit out on your own and solve the puzzles on your own, and there was like no easy way when you got stuck. Other than some games had a 900 number, you could call it. Like $1.99 a minute or whatever. But yeah, I get to the last building and you have to fight all the way up through the skyscraper, and then you get to the last boss at the top or whatever. And I'm playing it, and the game glitches. And I say, okay, I turn it off and turn it back on, and the in-game cart, the save system had corrupted, and the whole thing was gone. And so, like,
no.
I never beat Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo because I was too distraught to start from scratch. So,
Oh.
and then in Brad's vein, I've never had anything stolen, but when I was living in Oakland, the roof leaked one time, and it came down on my PlayStation games, and some of them, like, the games are fine, but the instruction manuals in them got wet and, like, then dried and got really hard, and I didn't know they'd gotten wet, so they're, like, all stuck together. And there were a few games there that, like, Elemental Gearbolt and shit that's, like, not really easy to find anymore, that now, like, an Alundra, like, the games are fine, the cases are fine, but the instruction manuals are, like, totally fucked, and I've never found, like, somebody who would just sell me an instruction manual for those games to replace them. So, but yeah, those are mine. Those are the worst. So I've been pretty lucky, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, knock on wood.
So have I. I really haven't had like a major incident. I guess at the beginning of this year, it was like the middle of January. In a 2-day span, my WoW account got hacked.
Oof.
And my 17-hour Assassin's Creed 2 game save got corrupted. The WoW account wasn't a big deal because I knew I could get it restored because it's like a rite of passage. If you play WoW, your account gets hacked eventually. But
yeah, but mine never did, oddly enough.
You know what you should do?
I should just start back up again, right?
You should log in tonight when we're done recording and just see if you got hacked. Maybe while you're there, just put in like an hour of just, walk around Dalaran, do a few quests. Just, stretch your legs, make sure the game still works.
Thanks.
When I got hacked, I did briefly consider not getting it restored and just ending my WoW career right then and there. But I decided that would have been letting the terrorists win, so I did get it restored. And ironically, I haven't really played that much since then, waiting for the new expansion. But the Assassin's Creed game save thing was interesting because I actually got into an argument about it on another message board with one of the developers of that game.
What?
When the corruption happened, I did some research and I found basically what happened was it's like Dragon Quest. There's one game save, so as I completed a mission, the game auto-saved and it locked up, and there was nothing I could do. So I turned off the Xbox, turned it back on, and it said bad data, and that was it. There was nothing I could do. I did some research and I found like 5 other people on the internet had this problem. And one of the there's another game forum I frequent, and I know.
Tim's a cheater.
You
haven't talked about this on the show yet, but he's a cheater.
I know.
I can't believe this is coming out here now, like in front of everyone. You're airing.
Isn't it awkward? Isn't it weird?
This is like you just showed up at dinner with another chick after we just made this great meal for you, and you bring home some broad. Some strange broad.
And you're holding like Burger King in your hand too.
Yeah, too much makeup and you've got fast food. Yeah,
I brought my own.
I am so hurt right now. I don't know if I can continue the show.
Yeah, I feel dirty.
So, I'm so sorry, men. So anyway, here's the thing. On this forum, there are developers who frequent this forum, and I knew that there was a guy from Ubisoft there who worked on Assassin's Creed 2. And I said, look, man, you've got a problem here. This happened to me. This happened to 5 other people. I'm just letting you know, do what you will with this information. And he comes back and he says to me that the problem is not with the game. He said, what you experienced is like a very rare anomaly that is not the fault of the game. And I'm like, okay, but it's me and 5 other people who had this same problem with this same game at this same moment of the game. And he's like, nope, what you are saying is theoretically impossible. And I'm like, no, it is neither theoretical nor is it impossible. So, but we were at an impasse. So I asked him, why don't you offer a second save slot or at least a backup? And he responded with, you don't need one. Because the save error shouldn't happen. Remember, it's theoretically impossible. And you would only ever want to have one game going at a time. So you don't need a second save slot. And I'm like, well, what if my wife wanted to play? She should create her own Xbox Live account and play under her account. Like, he couldn't comprehend why someone would want a backup save. And I wanted to, and this is where I got out of the conversation, but I'm like, look at Mass Effect. You can have 50 saves, it auto-saves, and you can save anytime you want. Why can't Assassin's Creed do the same thing? But
Because it sucks?
Well,
yeah, pretty much.
This is Assassin's Creed 2, remember, which does not suck.
It also sucks.
And here is...
Yeah, it looks pretty much like it sucks.
It continues to suck. It's like one long suck train.
It continues the trend established by the first game.
No, but here is...
We don't want to hear from you, cheater.
It's like the first one lets go, and the second one just latches right on where the first one left off.
My true
It's a pretty good movie, actually.
My true secret shame here is that I actually started the game over, and I did end up playing all the way through another 20 hours. So
I did not want to know that.
Yeah.
And now I can't unknow it.
I know, we really think less of you now. First the cheating, now you played through Assassin's Creed 2 essentially twice.
Who are you, Tim? I feel like I don't even know you anymore.
I already mounted my defense at the beginning of the show about my music career. I can't go down that emotional track again. Just can't. Why don't we all compose ourselves and take a break? When we come back, our main topic, more GameCritics.com podcast after these words. Well, no words actually, just music. In the details are the little things, the most important things when it comes to immersion in gaming. That's our topic this week. And Chi, you actually suggested the topic, so we're going to start with you. You raised it in the context of a game you're playing right now. We talked about it before, Infinite Space. What about that game inspired you to suggest this topic?
Long-time listeners of the show know that one half of the podcast is an extremely huge fan of the Wing Commander series.
It's not the Brad and Mike half.
It is not that half.
And I'm always talking about, trying to find that next Wing Commander, and I think I kind of found it, or the closest thing I found to it thus far has been Infinite Space, and one of the things that right off the bat that stuck out to me was the music. Just sort of like Wing Commander had these really great orchestral pieces that just really heightened the sense of battle. It changed when you were low on health and just really added to the experience. And I find that, Infinite Space also, has this it's about Infinite Space is about like commanding your own fleet of spaceships. So it's not quite piloting like a fighter jet, but just sort of like more like Star Trek, where you're captaining the Enterprise.
Kirk, not Picard, right?
Well, I'm more of a Picard guy myself, but...
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Can't we all just get along?
No, not over Kirk and Picard, no.
So where does Janeway fit into that, then?
Oh, Jesus. My dad always says, that's just proof you can't let a woman drive. You give her the Enterprise spaceship from the Starfleet, and she gets lost in space, so...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I can just see the hate emails pouring in.
Disclaimer, that was the opinion of your father.
Yes, of my father, yes. who says it totally in jest, but I find it hilarious, so... I didn't know we actually had girls who listen to the show, so I apologize. I've already done child abuse tonight, and now I've offended women.
Nice.
What will we get in the next segment? It's a mystery.
There'll be something, I'm sure.
We'll come up with something. Sorry, Tara, as you're transcribing this, I did not direct that.
you know, she just stopped at her keyboard and thinking, God, what a dick.
Oh, she's totally transcribing asshole things to me now. You know,
Misspelling your name in the transcript and stuff.
totally.
How did that slip out, asshole? Yeah.
It's a macro at this point, I would imagine.
All my comments for the rest of the show in the transcript will be, "I am a giant douchebag." So.
All right. So, Chi, the music of Infinite Space, one of the many details that enamored you to the game.
Right. Couple of other things. I remember in Wing Commander when you got to pilot like the prototype of the Rapier. I loved how like the cockpit changed, the weapons changed, the whole entire feel of the ship changed, and it's amazing how like so few games get that still to this day. You know, especially when it comes to like a lot of the flight sim games in the PC, where they don't even bother to show like the cockpit these days, or in like driving games they strip away the HUD altogether. So it's like you never even feel like you're in a different car, you know, or a different ship or whatever. And Infinite Space is great because once you get a new ship, you know, when you're in the battles, they have all these panning shots. You know, you get all these, you know, porn-like, you know, shots of your ship, you know, firing off cannons and lasers. So
Did you just say porn-like?
That's what I thought he said.
Wow.
Trying to give me pause there for a minute. Maybe I should check out this game.
Yeah.
Chi, let me send you some of my Wing Commander fan fiction when we're finished here.
He's got slash fiction, yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to see how I can explain this, but I guess it needs no explanation, so I'll just move on.
Just leave it at porn and move on.
Yeah. I guess the other thing I loved about Wing Commander when all those little cinematic moments, like, you know, right after the ship debriefing, you know, you start running to your ship, the dun 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 dun.
Yeah, totally.
Right, you're loading up in the ship. I mean, and then you launch out, all that great stuff. I mean, you know, I get a lot of games today think that gamers are tired of this stuff, and yeah, we get tired of it. So just let us skip, you know, put a skip button in there, but don't take it out altogether. You know, like that drives me crazy. You know, and those are the things that sort of adds to the experience. And I think Infinite Space it's a fairly streamlined experience, but they don't forget some of these kind of things where, you know, there's like when you're in the battle, there's like a lot of chatter between the crew and the helms, you know, and all that kind of stuff that you hear, you know, in Star Trek, the movies, and you can see the ship, and when you get hit with lasers, you know, the ship rocks, all those little details, you know. So I think like I said, all those things when they add up to that experience of sort of that Wing Commander experience that I've been looking for, even though it's not like you're piloting a ship. And one other thing I wanted to add was just the characters. You know, they're sort of your typical anime characters, but the one thing I like, well, they're not the most typical, they're not cliche, but the one thing I love about it is just like the way the Wing Commander, they take the time to establish who they are, and you don't need like sort of this 3D graphics. You know, it could just be sitting there. You know, you're clicking on images of the person, and they tell you a little bit about themselves, and that's enough. You know, and Infinite Space at least does that as well, and so I really enjoy the characters as well in the game.
So why do they market this game like an RPG? Because everything I've seen about it, they want to call it like an RPG, and it doesn't. When you talk about it, it doesn't really sound like an RPG.
There are a lot of RPG aspects to it. Well, mainly just the way the characters look, and that you have sort of these conversations like in an RPG game. But really, this game, I'm reminded of a lot of the old PC games like Elite and Escape Velocity on the Mac. I don't know if you guys ever played that one, but it's got that really retro kind of PC feel, but in a good way. You know, I don't think there was necessarily anything wrong with those games. I think we're all because of the technology, we're all too much in a rush to like turn everything into like this expansive world, and you're walking around in places like it's Second Life or some shit like that. You know, but really at the end of the day, when you get the details right, you can, you know, a menu interface is still decent, you know, in the right context. And of course this is the DS, so that, you know, they have to sort of go to that, you know, but I think it's a good reminder that, you know, menus can still work in the right context.
I'm going to have something to say about menus in a little bit, but I want to stick on the sci-fi RPG track for the moment and transition to Mass Effect. And for that, I will turn to you, Brad. Sticking with this theme of attention to detail, one of the complaints that I have had, and I would like your opinion on the matter, about the DLC for Mass Effect has been how poorly it has integrated into the customized story of my Mass Effect Shepard. And I think the last DLC, Lair of the Shadow Broker, I think we've both played it, does a better job, but not a great job of it. And I think that's a lack of attention to detail. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on really the Mass Effect DLC in that regard and how well it's worked for you.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I actually have been kind of surprised because prior to this most recent generation of games, and maybe that's not even the right thing to say, but prior to Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age, I would have said that, BioWare would have been a company that I would have trusted to do DLC right, because they seem to get their games so right, to me anyway, in so many ways. But this DLC has shown just like kind of a stunning lack of attention to detail, which has led to like really subpar experiences for me and for you and for a lot of people. I think with Shadow Broker, what they got right was that the only reason anybody plays BioWare games is for the story and the characters. I mean, that's the one thing that BioWare does better than anybody else in the business, just about. And so when they brought back Liara and were able to continue her story, and if you were a Shepard who romanced her, then it was even better for you because you finally got to finish that particular storyline as well. I mean, that was really what everybody wanted. People wanted to get more story that mattered and that really could tie back to what you just played. So when you play through the game the first time, Liara gives you the cold shoulder. She talks about the Shadow Broker. It doesn't really go anywhere. Everybody was kind of left feeling like, where's the detail? Where's the depth? Why does this not feel natural and normal? So it was really cool when they finally circled back. I mean, it took them like 8 or 9 months to do it, which was way too long. And honestly, I think this should have been in the main game in the first place. But I'm glad that they finally did realize that a lot of people out there wanted these details and really wanted to get that closure. So that was really cool. But surprisingly, the previous bits of DLC for Mass Effect 2 have been really lacking. I mean, they've really showed like just a fundamental misunderstanding about what people want from their games. I mean, adding the airship, whatever it's called, was kind of it was kind of fun for a minute, but it wasn't really anything that really mattered significantly. And the other DLCs were pretty light. I mean, the one that introduced the thief character, Kasumi, was was okay, but she didn't really matter to anybody, and it didn't really tie into anything that we did. So it kind of felt just kind of tacked on. And personally, I didn't find any of that stuff to be really satisfying at all. I think Shadow Broker was the one that, to me, is the only one that really matters. And it's funny because since we're talking about BioWare, I think an even better example of not paying attention to details is Dragon Age. That game has some pretty horrific mistakes in terms of DLC and not paying attention to what matters. I mean, I think everybody was kind of stunned when, at the end of Dragon Age, I mean, maybe this is a spoiler for some people, but it's possible to have your character either male or female, and they can survive or they can die. Like, your character can actually die at the end of Dragon Age. And for my playthrough, my hero did. My hero was a female who chose to sacrifice herself. And so when they announced all this DLC, I was like, well, how's that going to work? Because my hero's dead. I mean, my story has been told. It's going to be pretty boring to have this like
start from scratch.
There. Yeah, right. I mean, but why would you want to do that? And so it seemed like a lot of this DLC. Yeah, you're right. Maybe if you got some cool phantom powers out of it, that might work. But it seemed to me like a pretty huge thing to overlook, where I'm sure a large part of maybe not a large part, but I'm sure a part of the people who play Dragon Age are going to be sitting there like me going, what the fuck? Like, my character died, so how can I possibly play some of this DLC? I mean, their answer was to either A, pretend like it didn't happen, which was like the most unsatisfying, stupid thing ever, because when you play an RPG, I mean, you care about the story and the characters. How can you just snap your fingers and say, oh, well, I gave them $5, so I guess my character's alive now? I mean, it totally undercuts all the story that you went through, all the emotional investment you made. Let me ask you this.
Isn't all the DLC set like right before the finale? Was that how they tried to get around it?
No, not all of it is. I don't think so. Awakenings was after, for sure. The other DLC, Leliana's song was supposed to be way before the game took place, so they kind of got around that. The other parts, what was it? The Golems one I haven't tried yet, but the other couple ones, I think they could have been before. And that was kind of how they set it up in the game. Like, they kind of positioned it within the game to be as though you had not finished the game yet.
Which
Which
then
is
makes
kind
you
of a-
feel like, why do I have to pay for downloadable content for events that should have happened in the main game in the first place?
Totally. And so it didn't really make a lot of sense. And BioWare's other answer was to just start a new character that was not your original hero, which again was kind of a fail because why would you want to start with somebody that you don't have any history with? I mean, you just spent 50, 60 hours with this one character, and then you're going to start for 5 hours with this other person and then be done with them? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. So, I mean, to me, I'm really surprised how many games don't pay attention to the details where it really matters. And a lot of these are not really small details either. I mean, I think that they would be really big details to just kind of brush aside or overlook. I mean, I hate to say that they're doing it just for the sake of making an extra $5 or $3 here and there, but it kind of makes me wonder sometimes.
One of our podcast colleagues and frequent contributor to the show writes in with questions all the time. Doc Brown over at Gaming the Media, their podcast, fantastic show, highly recommended. He actually wrote into us about DLC. I just want to read a little bit about what he said. He said, my issue with DLC for RPGs that emphasize character building like Fallout 3 and Mass Effect, one would like to feel as though the DLC is adding to one's character's overall story, both narrative and development. If the game ends definitively, then DLC that forces the player to reload an old save feels slightly hollow for me. While the game's story can be embellished, the fact that the game is likely already done implies that the character's arc has already been completed, thus adding new weapons, powers, and items feels unsatisfying. It's tricky business with DLC, and we thank Doc Brown for writing that, because I think the audience most likely to buy DLC is probably the audience that bought the game on day one and finished it very quickly. So you're probably going to run into that with most of the hardcore players of your game. I go back to Fallout 3, and we talked about all that DLC on some of the first episodes of this show. The first two, that's what you had to do. You had to reload an old save, play through. It wasn't until the third DLC that it actually changed the ending so that you could continue playing. And I don't think it's any coincidence that and the subsequent DLC, Point Lookout, were the best DLC offered for that game because it continued the story. Going back to Mass Effect, I think, and sticking with our theme of attention to detail, one of the things I really appreciated about Shadow Broker were the references to the original Mass Effect. Not just the fact that Liara was there, but just sort of the wisecracking comments about, hey, wasn't it easier when we just had Omnigel to open all of these crates, that we could solve all our problems with Omnigel, which of course, disappeared between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. And I think that's something that I know I really appreciate when I'm playing a game, particularly a sequel in a franchise that references the previous games, like little knowing nods or comments like the Omnigel comment that show that it kind of rewarding me for paying attention, for being invested in the universe. Let me switch gears slightly, and Mike, I want to bring you into the conversation here because I know you've been playing or finished Red Dead Redemption, and I frankly would just like to hear you talk about Red Dead Redemption. But let me tie it to the topic here for a second. I like to think of Rockstar games as having kind of a selective attention to detail. Like there are certain aspects of their games that are absurdly fleshed out, and then certain aspects of their games that are basically just like thrown in as an afterthought and really stand out for that.
Yes.
Like Red Dead Redemption has a fully featured Texas Hold'em and blackjack simulator. Like it all takes place in the game world, and when you're playing Texas Hold'em, you are sitting at the table. When you look at your cards, you're actually looking at your hands holding the cards. You're watching the other players at the table pick up their chips, put them into the center of the table. It is a straight up, fully featured Texas Hold'em game. I mean, when the characters shift in their chair, you can hear the chair scraping across the floorboards, in the bar. It's really just unbelievable. But then at the same time, when you go into a shop, it's a straight up video game menu. It's like choose quantity, X1, X2, there's a buy tab, there's a sell tab, and it's like you built a whole Texas Hold'em game, which really isn't that important to the overall game. But
not at all.
Yeah, it's just like this random thing that you can go do, but then the shop interface is just the standard archaic video game interface.
Yeah.
And this is classic Rockstar. I mean, when I played Chinatown Wars, in Chinatown Wars you can buy lottery tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And on the DS you can run the stylus across them and it leaves that sort of lottery ticket residue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I wonder if I blow into the microphone if it's going to move the residue. And it totally did. And that was like this stupid little thing that they put in, but it's this little detail that totally adds to the immersiveness of the experience. The classic Rockstar example, though, and I think it was San Andreas, and I may have that wrong, but was that the one where you could eat junk food and get really fat?
Yeah, San Andreas. Or you could get
eat
really
like the
buff
healthy,
from working out.
high protein stuff. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like you could go buy hot dogs or whatever it is, and you would just get fat, but you could work out and get totally ripped, which was just this ridiculous detail, and it was really, really cool. But in the same game, I think if you swim, you die instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, all right.
Yeah, no swimming.
Like even like your foot touches water and it's like game over. And I think the same thing is true in Red Dead. And it just it's just classic Rockstar. There's certain systems that are intensely detailed, but it makes the stuff that isn't fleshed out stand out, that much more.
Definitely. The thing that I had like this really interesting experience with Red Dead Redemption because I loved the game. I really liked it a lot. I think it was really nice to see Rockstar kind of branch out from the typical Grand Theft Auto setting and, do something in a different area. And if you were going to branch out, the Old West is a really cool idea for a place to have a sandbox type game. And so I love it for that. I love it for the fact that it's good about paying homage to a lot of classic Western films and things like that. And I really like the main character, John Marston. Of all the Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto, and these kind of game protagonists, he's definitely my favorite. He's the most interesting. And the things that bug me about it, though, are like you said, the fact that they pay so much attention to the detail of some of these things like the poker or like as Marston, you have choices throughout the game. You can be a good guy, good Samaritan who helps everybody, or you can be like a complete outlaw and shoot everything that moves and rob people and steal money and everything. But the thing that kills it is when you then you can shoot someone in the face and then like walk up to the person who has the next quest and she treats you like you're still the greatest guy in the world, like you're this good Samaritan saint, straight down from heaven, even though you just shot a guy in the face like 2 feet away from her for no reason. So it's things like that bug me about it, and I'm like, why? And this is interesting because I just played Dante's Inferno, and it has the same thing happening. You can play good or bad, or you can power up the dark side for the scythe or the light side for the cross. But then when you get to the end of the game, the last cutscene plays out like one way, no matter which way you chose. If you chose to like punish every sinner you came across, you still get this ending. If you chose to absolve them, you get the same ending. So it's like, why do you give me this illusion of choice in these games and then like not cater the cutscenes to fit that? But yeah,
let's call that the two human effect.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Red Dead is really cool. It definitely has some issues, like why. It's got the Rockstar issues, basically. Why do they feel the need to like every game put the corny humor in over and over? Like it's not as flagrant in Red Dead as it is in the Grand Theft Auto games, but I mean, I understand it. I now accept it in the Grand Theft Auto games as just part of that universe. But I would really I think Red Dead would work better if it were more serious, like a typical Western. And the Mexico segment, the second area of the game, the quests are really not exciting. So like you play the first half and you run into like there's like a necrophiliac and there's all these weird characters and it's funny and it's cool. And then you get to Mexico and it's this terrible sort of Yojimbo, last man standing kind of story. And then you struggle through that, and then you get to the end of the game, and it gets kind of interesting again. But yeah, it's a cool game. I'm interested though. What have you thought of it, Tim?
I think my overall opinion is I'm disappointed that they remade Grand Theft Auto 4 into a Western.
Into a Western.
That they did not, and I liked Grand Theft Auto 4. I enjoyed it. I really had a good time with it. And I don't know why I was expecting Red Dead to be something different, that they would create a new kind of game to be this Western, but it is just Grand Theft Auto 4 with a Western skin.
It is and it is and it isn't. I see a lot of ways where it is, and like I think when people call it Grand Theft Pony, that that's certainly sort of fitting. I think though there's some ways that the structure is the same, but I think there's a little more. I'm hesitant to say maturity to it, but I think there's more depth to the story and to the writing of it than there is to the typical GTA game, and I think maybe that's why it stands out as better for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about Marsden, and they're very, very clear right up front when the first sort of main NPC that you meet, Bonnie, who runs this ranch, she kind of hits on you a little bit, and you kind of get a sense that if Marsden wanted to, that they could get together. But he is completely loyal to his wife and son.
Yes.
And that right there sets him apart from Nico Bellic, in that this is not a guy who is going to just randomly become a sociopath and murder 4,000 people. He's not going to sleep with every woman who crosses his path. He is fundamentally a good guy. And I think the game works, like plot-wise, if you play him as a good guy.
Yeah.
I never felt compelled to just walk into a town and shoot the bartender just for kicks. Whereas in Grand Theft Auto 4, that's all I did was just shoot grandparents and mostly the elderly, as many elderly people as I could find. But I have never done that in Red Dead Redemption, and I think that that's due to that's the writing. But in terms of the game system, go to an icon on a map, get a quest, drive your horse to that location, shoot some dudes. Occasionally it's mixed up. Mission is over, you get some money, you get some honor, go to the next icon, and that has grown stale for me.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, because we've seen it so long, from Grand Theft Auto and now into Red Dead Redemption, I totally know where you're coming from. For me, I think just the change of setting made it feel more fresh than it really is. I mean, just the fact that I'm not jacking cars. I can whistle for my horse. I don't have to steal a vehicle whenever I want to go somewhere or run to a garage for my car. I just whistle and my horse shows up. I really thought that, the detail of the countryside, and even though like you run into these random events and they're the same couple ones over and over, like every time a chick's by a broken down cart, that's an ambush waiting to happen and everything.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that pulls you out of it, but the first time you see each of those things, it's pretty cool, and I found I just had a lot of fun just kind of roaming around through the world because they've put so much attention to the detail of the setting and the way the horses ride and everything like that. And I'm not even like a huge Western fan, but for something about that game just really clicked with me, and I think it was the writing, and just for me, that made up for a lot of the familiarity with the gameplay elements of it.
It could be that I am in the Mexico part right now, and I am totally with you on the tedium of those missions and just the generic characters.
Yeah, and what sucks is like the old gunslinger who is your first mission point there. Yeah. He's an interesting character.
Yeah, like, he's great.
Yeah, and then they totally abandon him for this stupid Mexican Civil War thing with these guys who are just, and that's the problem, is the guys just become your typical rock star quest characters. There's like in the first act you meet this guy who's like a necrophiliac, and I love the guy who's the tonics, the snake oil salesman. He's a good character, he's an interesting character. He's funny, but he's still interesting. He's not just a caricature. I mean, he he has some depth to him. But by the time you get to Mexico, it's like you meet the gunslinger and he's awesome, and then it's on to these, you know, cliched Mexican general, the cliched Mexican soldier, then the cliched Mexican freedom fighter, and then the cliched Mexican girl who loves the freedom fighter, who's really in it for the good reasons. And it's just like, it just becomes this big chore to get through those missions. I will tell you to stick with it, though, because it gets better after you get out of Mexico.
I will. I'm definitely going to finish it. I have too much time invested in it to stop, and I'm hoping it gets back to the early promise of the story.
Going back to the main topic for a second, guys. Let me ask you guys about Rockstar as a whole, because I actually am not a big fan of Rockstar in general. Ever since Grand Theft Auto 3, I just have never been able to really get into their games for all the reasons that you guys say. I mean, we all sort of agree that a lot of they're very flawed in a lot of ways, a lot of uneven execution, a lot of grand gestures and grand ideas, and some of it gets executed well, but that's never been able to add up for me in any of their games, right down to 4. And I think Red Dead Redemption, I started to play that, is going to maybe come closest, and maybe I'll actually be able to get through that one. But in your mind, why is it, the selective attention to detail? How, and Mike kind of touched on it, but how have you been able to play through all these games if it's like as flawed as you guys say it is?
Well, for me, the Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are games that I never finished the main storyline. I would start them. I would get this is something else I've noticed about Rockstar, and like you see it here in Red Dead Redemption 2, they are terrible at second acts. Look at San Andreas. San Andreas is pretty fun when you're in the first area. Then you get to San Fierro and it all falls apart. Here in Red Dead Redemption, the first area is great. You get to Mexico, the game really starts to suffer. So for some reason, their middle acts are just not very good, and it's something that continues through all of their games, I've noticed. Even GTA 4 is not so good in the middle. But I think they've gotten better. GTA 4 was the first one of their games that I've actually made it all the way through to the end of the story, and then I made it all the way through Red Dead Redemption. So I think they're growing there, and it's a thing where, for me, it's the characters and the story. Nico Bellic is not as interesting a character as John Marston, but for the time, he was the most interesting of their protagonists that had been in one of their games because he actually talked, and there was some kind of I'm hesitant to say depth to Nico, but I mean, you could find things to like identify with in him depending on how you played him. So if you weren't shooting hookers in the face, maybe you could identify with him a little more. But I think that's, for me, the idea of freedom has been what has worked in a lot of them, and I just play them sort of in a mindless way. Like, you follow the missions for a while, and then you just start fucking around to just kill people or see how many stars you can get wanted and all that. So,
or maybe I'm not out of the ordinary. Maybe a lot of people are just playing the first sections and then stopping. I don't know. I mean,
I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people never finish these games. Like, they don't. I think the hardcore guys who get them day one play through and see the end of the story, but I think a lot of people play them very casually. You play them for a while, and then you reach a point where you lose interest, and then you just pick it up when friends come over. And like, I know Tom Moyles used to come to my house, and we just pop in Grand Theft Auto 3 and fucking steal a huge tractor trailer and just destroy stuff. And
you just hit it right there, because I was just going to say, is it a social thing? And it really is, right? I mean, it's like this whole big pop culture social thing.
Totally. We'd never play that game to try to advance the plot when he'd come to the house. We would just play it to cause mayhem and to see what kind of crazy shit you could jump off of, or and it lends itself to that very well. So I think, though, with Red Dead Redemption and even GTA 4, you see they're getting a little bit better at telling a story and making the gameplay to where you want to see the end of it. And GTA 4 is hit and miss for me, but definitely I think Red Dead Redemption is worth suffering through that middle Mexico section to get to the end.
What about you guys? What are your thoughts on Rockstar in general?
I like Rockstar when they are at their most ridiculous, and I think that just ties to what you guys are saying. Is I never finished Grand Theft Auto 3. I couldn't finish Vice City because I just, the mechanics were too rough for me. I did finish San Andreas. San Andreas, to me, was just grab a jetpack, fly to a topic of a casino, and snipe senior citizens. I mean, that, and then go in and play some blackjack. I mean, that to me was so much fun, and I kept playing because that game was really good about doling out upgrades. Like every couple missions, you would get something. You'd get a fighter jet, and then you would get the jetpack, and then you would get some kind of new laser rifle. I don't know what it was, and it just kept escalating. Grand Theft Auto 4, I think I kept playing because it was just so beautiful. Just a beautiful game, and driving around Liberty City never got stale. The story certainly did, and at the point where Nico became this, I use the word sociopath, a mass murderer with no redeeming value whatsoever, I was no longer invested, and I was just kind of playing out of, I don't know, obligation to having bought it, I guess. But to me, I have the most fun with these games when it's just straight up crazy nuts, and that to me is San Andreas kind of is Rockstar's peak in that regard.
See, for me, it's Manhunt, but that wasn't so much a sandbox game.
And Brad, I know you love Grand Theft Auto 4.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of Grand Theft Auto. Or not. Rockstar is kind of hit or miss for me. I actually do appreciate the level of detail they put into a lot of the games, but like you guys have already said several times, it's usually on the incidental stuff or the peripheral stuff. I mean, you know, finding out that some little gizmo works when you just thought it was decoration is pretty cool, or all the little details are pretty nice. But in general, in terms of Rockstar's just game design philosophy, I used to like them more than I do now. I played and finished Grand Theft Auto 3. Mike, like you, Tim, I could not play Vice City because it was way too rough for me. Like I had major camera problems and all kinds of frame rate problems and stuff. For me, I think the high point was honestly San Andreas because it was the biggest. They packed the most stuff into it, but also I actually did like the story. I thought the story was good enough for me to be interested all the way through, which I honestly cannot say about most of Rockstar's games. Although I finished most of them, I finished Bully. And that story never
love Bully. I forgot about that.
It was fun. Good story.
Bully,
I mean, good
Bully
game,
is really good. Yeah.
But the story fucking blew. And Grand Theft Auto 4 was like a hot mess of just... It was terrible. It was awful. I found nothing to like about it. And I don't understand anybody who ever likes that game because that to me was like a giant misfire. And I can't really talk about Red Dead because I started it for like an hour. And to be perfectly honest, as soon as I started, I'm like, wow, this is really, really similar to another Grand Theft Auto game, which I kind of already knew, but I was kind of hoping it would be like a little more different. And so I just like stopped because I had like 5 games that I needed to review at the time. And so I couldn't justify doing like a pleasure play in the middle of having all these responsibilities. And I just honestly haven't found a reason to come back to it yet.
I think that the first couple hours of Red Dead are not the most exciting.
Yeah. I think I played for maybe an hour, 2 hours, and I was just like, okay.
I literally almost threw in the towel at like the 2 hour mark because I just wasn't really feeling anything for it, but then I stuck it out.
What really
I don't
blows
have any criticisms, but I think it just didn't hook me. And with so many other good things to play this year, I didn't really feel like signing up for another GTA clone with horses. But I probably will come back to it though. I'll start it again.
Yeah, what really blows my mind about Rockstar games, it's almost like the actual game itself gets in the way of what makes Rockstar games good. Does that make sense?
That's a good observation. Yeah. That's a really good observation. Yeah,
they're kind of, sometimes they strike me as guys who really wanted to just make movies and
exactly like
and got stuck making games instead.
Or it's almost like they have this disdain for like game mechanics that are sort of like what they think are the tried and true methods of generating dollars, which isn't necessarily the case, but it's almost like they're pandering in almost an insulting kind of way. And maybe they think it's ironic in some ways that on one hand, they're like, doing all these grand gestures and all this, forward thinking art. And then on the other hand, they're like, just throwing the same bullshit and regurgitating the same mechanics back out of this, so I don't know. For me, it's never come together quite right.
I will say that at least this one it's pretty easy to shoot. So, which is nice because
right. I noticed that.
The horses are easier to control than the cars in Grand Theft Auto 4.
I'm having a hard time with the horses already, and I'm already like, this is like why I fucking hate Rockstar games. Like it just, everything's just painful.
Really? You've had a hard time with the horses, really?
And I kept, like, when I'm trying to shoot the coyotes, I'm like, I kept bumping into the fences, and they kept jumping over the fence, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
God.
there are little spots like that, but you just get out in the open, and it's a lot easier.
You're going to get some abilities that will help you with that as well.
Yeah.
So stick with it. But gentlemen, we are over on time. I am committed to turning in a proper show of proper length, and I am going to call it here. Do we have any final thoughts for the community? Any? Actually, Brad, I'm going to turn to you right now. PAX was a couple weeks ago. We had the tweet up. And how did that turn out? Did you get to meet any listeners?
Did we not talk about that? I guess we didn't, did we?
Never
I want
actually.
to hear this. Yeah.
Tell us briefly about the tweet up.
Yeah, it was actually really great. We had a really, really good turnout. And we had just like a really good mix of people. I was really surprised at how many people came down, and thanks to everybody who attended, and also big thanks to Gladriel for helping co-host. I mean, they did a great job of providing everything we needed. I mean, we got to the restaurant, we had a big space, which worked out really well. A bunch of people showed up, and we had like tons of food. I mean, we had so much cheesecake at the end of the night. I was literally walking up to strangers and giving them cheesecake because there was like so much we could not eat it all. And it was really fun. I mean, we got together at these long tables, and a bunch of people just showed up. And it wasn't really even anybody that I had really had that close a relationship with prior to the tweet up. But, people whose names I had kind of recognized and stuff. And so it was nice to meet some of those folks in person. And then, we just sat, we just talked. Everybody really got along well. I mean, I think in total, I would say that there were only 2 people who I would say were really kind of weird, who I didn't really want to sit next to. But everybody else was like really cool. Like they were really normal.
Were they listeners? The 2 weird people?
I do not want to say because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. The 2 people were a little bit on the creepy side for me, but everybody else was like really cool and really normal and funny, and everybody like really got along. Like it was really a good deal. I would totally want to do that again for sure.
I can't believe both our listeners were in one place at the same time.
I know, like they both flew across the country to be there. It was awesome. But it was good. It was really good. And like I said, I mean, I totally would like to do that again next year. Maybe organize it just like a wee bit differently. But in general, I think it was like a huge success. And it was a good time. It was a good time. So to everybody who came out, thanks very much for showing up.
And are there pictures posted somewhere where we maybe could identify the people you didn't care for?
Didn't like? Yeah.
I only posted one. I actually took a bunch of pictures, but I only used one on my PAX coverage because I was like, if you weren't there, it's probably going to be pretty boring to look at all these pictures of everybody. So I just put one up and just know that it was cool. You can kind of get a pretty good sense for how big it was in that picture because my wife took a pretty long shot of one of the main tables. So just kind of picture that, and it was a good time. Good fun.
Fantastic. Well, I know that Richard Nyack and I are both committed to coming to PAX next year, so we'll be right there next to each other eating cheesecake. We maybe could split a piece of cheesecake.
Those are big pieces. Yeah. Oh my God, those pieces are so huge. Yeah. It was disgusting.
So did you guys eat nothing but cheesecake the whole night?
No. We had appetizers. We had chicken wings. We had pot stickers. We had a bunch of appetizers come out. And then everybody's entree was kind of like on their own because otherwise that would have been, it would have cost like several $1,000s or whatever. So we weren't going to front dinner costs for everybody. But the appetizers were free, and the cheesecake was free also. So everybody got that. There was prize packs that we gave out. We gave out a bunch of T-shirts. We had a raffle. We gave away a PS3 there. We gave away a bunch of a couple games and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was really.
We need to organize a PS3 giveyway for me. Since I
buy raffle tickets, Mike, and you're sure to win.
If I have to buy 300, it's not worth it.
Yeah, right. Only $1 a piece, though. They're cheap.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very well. Brad, thanks for sharing that with us. And like I said, I do look forward to attending in person next year. Chi Kong Lu, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Tim.
Mike Bracken, always a pleasure.
Looking forward to Radiant Silvergun on Xbox Live Arcade. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah. Radiant Silvergun.
So fucking excited.
I have no idea what that is.
Classic treasure shmup.
Edit that out because if you say that, then everyone's going to know you're a poker.
Totally lost your credibility, dude.
Oh, come on. He's already betrayed us already. What's stopping us now?
What's left, right? He's like the easy high school girl.
And with that, I thank you, the listener. Remember, you can subscribe to the show through iTunes or the Zune Marketplace, or listen right off the GameCritics.com homepage. We'd love for you to leave your comments there as well, or email them if you're shy to podcast@GameCritics.com. So for the entire GameCritics.com family and Chi-Kong Liu, Mike Bracken, Brad Gallaway, I'm Tim Spaeth. Good night and bon chance.